A lot of people think to get out of the hospital, they're done. I mean, I still remember a client telling me they don't have any issues because they're on medicine. I said, the 17 pills you're on means you have a problem.
If I weigh my pros and cons, it's very important for me. And I truly believe everybody should have supplementation, so we could start there.
One thing that really impressed me was I've not heard of anyone reversing a colostomy bag before. I mean, once you have that, most people give up and that's the rest of their life. And you decided to biohack your way out of it.
Welcome to the Brain Fitness Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Patrick Porter. Please join us on our mission to better a billion brains. Enjoy the episode and remember to share it with your family and friends.
Hello, BrainTap Nation. This is Dr. Patrick Porter back again for an episode of the Brain Fitness Podcast. Today I have a very special friend. Not only is she the queen of biohacking, she's also a close friend. We're doing some sessions together, so we've got some really exciting stuff coming out on BrainTap. Right now, you can go listen to her. Actually, she has a session called Align Your Spine, right? Is that the...
Yep, align your spine and free your mind.
There you go. So, Dr. Leiva, welcome to the Brain Fitness Podcast.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Porter.
Yeah.
Dr. Patrick Porter.
Yes, yeah. And we were just together in Miami. It was exciting. You presented a couple of different times. You presented a meditation, which was awesome. Plus, you were talking about biohacking your pets. But I want to talk about your biohacking journey because it blows my mind what you did, and you're willing to share what most people don't. They want to show the beauty of what they did, and they just want to show the after pictures. But you actually get up on stage and show what happened to you. So tell us a little bit about your journey into biohacking and how you use BrainTap and all of those things. But start first with your journey because you started your journey before you met BrainTap, and you were doing a lot of things to get your health optimized. And tell us a little bit too, because a lot of people don't realize that you're not just the queen of biohacking, you're a scholar. I mean, you're a brainiac. So, you were doing things with, where other people weren't doing them. And, it's kind of hard to live in a world where you're at such a high IQ and other people seem to be below 70 most of the time. If you don't know, below 70 is Forrest Gump. So, we have, and he didn't do too bad with a 70 IQ, as far as the movie goes. So tell us a little bit about your journey, what got you into this, and, how you're progressing, because you've got some great things going on down in Florida right now.
Thank you so much. So, yes, it's been a journey. I'll tell you that. It's been a journey today as well. It's never over, at least when we are in this meat suit. But I have all of those pictures also because of my journey. Anytime something happens, I know that I'm going to come out of it, mind, body, and soul. And that's why I document everything. And I had a really good upbringing in regards to spirituality and motivation. So just starting with that, my mother had me at an older age, and she was with the founder of Laughter Yoga. She did drummings on the beach, women's circles, a lot of, throw it in the fire. What do you want to get rid of? And let's set intentions and let's manifest. And she always believed in me. And I think one of the common factors of very successful people is a really amazing, supportive mother. Of course, there's the anomalies, but that was quite amazing. And then also in my household, my parents divorced before I was born. I had a lot of aftercares, before cares, just being, I don't want to say neglect, but it is neglect if you've seen me on stage. And like they did their best, but it's like you were put in a system 9 to 5 before and after. And a lot of trauma can happen to children that are, the parents aren't paying attention to everything. And there was also stuff within our home, and I'm not going to go down that path now, but all of these things get stored as a child. And being a scholar, I have a high IQ. I skipped second and third grade, even after being held back in first, which is quite interesting. They held me back. I stuttered. I had a couple things, and then I could flip the book to the end, answer all the questions. They're like, wow, this is a genius. We didn't know. So I then skipped second and third grade, which was good and bad. Good because I was able to challenge my mind. In a public school system, usually the only way to really provide those enhanced environments is skipping grades. It's a very typical thing. But now you're in a developmentally different age group. So you can think of people, whether it's through your crowds, people get into different habits or they try different things at different ages. So that came into my life pretty early. I know it's a PG podcast, so I don't know I'm trying to think of the words I can say, but I'm going to be speaking at a Canadelic. So I experienced a lot of these different substances starting, in 7th grade, middle school, before that. And again, just really dabbling with different things due to trauma and escapism, exploration. And the whole time I kept a really amazing, beautiful brain, straight A's. When I got to college, I had a Jenkins scholarship and I went to USF. I got a bachelor in biomedical science. I got a bachelor of biomedical physics. And then I went on to get my doctorate. I took my MCAT. I was going to go to USF medical school, but my mom had a stroke and lung cancer, and my now 17-year-old child was born 2 months early. And I graduated my physics degree and all of that stuff while I was pregnant too. So let's just add that on. But anyway, so going to the next stage to medical school, I thought, how can I be treating all of these patients while my mom's at home with complete asymmetry in her spine from what happened with the stroke? She's in pain. She was having pseudo dementia and cognitive issues from all of the supplements, neglect, anesthesia. And now I have my son, who I thought my mother was going to help me, in a similar situation, but different, being born 2 months early. He had to have physical therapy 3 times a week, occupational therapy, food therapy, speech therapy. And it was a lot for a young mother to take care of my own mother and my own son and go to 20 appointments per weekend, go to medical school. So I ended up dropping out of medical school. And I just gave it all to my family. I took care of my mom. We actually reversed a lot of her posture issues. I'm going to send you that picture for this very moment, because she would always say 10 minutes with you. She said, God gave you for me. She looked 20 years younger just by aligning the spine and freeing your mind. And then I was able to work with my son. And he's the real reason why I shifted from medical to physical, because his therapist one day told me, I know you're not doing what I'm telling you. And I was like, what? How rude. Like, what do you mean? She goes, because I know what I'm saying works. And I am now that person, because I know what I'm saying works. And when you know, you know. And she wanted me to do joint compressions and desensitizing therapy to my son almost every 2 hours, because he wouldn't walk or talk. But really, when she put it in my own heart space as a mother, my own, like, his delay is on you. Like, if you really want it that bad, you're going to get it. I'm very competitive. Nobody's going to challenge me. So I was like, oh yeah. So then I actually dedicated. I set the alarm. And it's not that I didn't want to before that. I was 70 pounds. I was anemic. I was going through my own health issues, taking care of my family. It's like I aged a presidency or two. It was very hard. I even got gray hair, which I was able to reverse, but it was quite intense. But anyways, I did so much therapy with him. I realized the doctors wanted to put him in a program, give me money, and say he's going to be delayed forever. He didn't walk or talk. When I did exactly what she said, his next appointment, he got up, stood up on his feet, walked, and kicked a soccer ball. So it's like, not only did he go where he was supposed to, he skipped over all of these other things and was right where he was. And he's in all advanced classes, AP classes. And it's not what's advanced, what's delayed, but you had to reconnect the wires. We all have that ability if there's no spinal cord injury, or there was not an oxygen injury or something at birth, like congenital, that can't be reversed. But I don't believe in the word can't. You just got to keep finding a way. And so she really opened my eyes and made me fall in love with hands-on care. A big factor is I was his mother. So each time I touched him, I prayed to God I'm going to heal him, and that I love him, and that this is going to work. And my patients always tell me, why are you closing your eyes sometimes? And when I used to practice on my mom, she used to look at me and say, that's why your patients love you. Look at you. You're just, But really it's like I start working, but I'm like, I have to bring it all in. And it's not that I have to, I want to. time is the most valuable resource. So again, working on my son, working on my mother, it switched my path. So instead of going back to medical school, I went to get my doctorate in physical therapy. Yeah, and even after that, I got my master's in dry needling. I became a Graston technique specialist, which is what some people think is gua sha or scraping, but it's really cellular reorganization. I teach yoga because that's very important to me. When I dropped out of medical school to be with my family, I thought, how am I going to watch Dora the Explorer every day? I'm going to punch my... like my brain felt like it was going dead. At the same time, I'm like, I have to keep it live. And I would do Sudoku and brain games, but it wasn't enough. So I said, hey, let me go back and get my doctorate. All my advisors said, nobody can just go back to school and get it's really good to have that academic. But for me, I had a behavior issue too, which was quite funny in graduate school. And it was because of a lot of the pain and all of that stuff. And that's how I got to you eventually. I just had to be kicked down a couple more times spiritually. But that's kind of the educational background and how I got going back to doctor of physical therapy. And as you said, anybody who has a medical degree or a certification, every 2 years, you have to keep it alive. So you can gain more and more and more and more and more initials at the end of your name. But each one that I dedicate my time and practice to is not just to BS my time away. It's to enhance my brain as well as my offering to my patients. I tell them every time I go to a conference, when I grow, their service grows. So it's just been a part of my path.
That's great. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about what happened to you, because this weekend, I've heard you many times say it, but you did a great job putting together the puzzle for people, because a lot of the biohacking, especially the biohacking women, they were beautiful before they started. So now they're still beautiful. And, you never saw what they were before, or if they were, what they really did, other than they drink coffee, with butter in it.
You don't want to go to a painter whose walls look like not good walls. And this is me not using bad words.
Right.
So this has been almost a blessing in disguise, because I can literally just show those pictures and gain so many different populations. When I was 13, I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease. And again, being a scholar, having the house situation, we all know you're storing things in your stomach, your gut, all of that. So my gut health was pretty bad. I grew up on, no insurance. I was on Medicaid and stuff like this, or nothing at all. So lots of prednisone, lots of neglect from the medical system. By the time I had my second son, they cut my intestine while I was pregnant, and I became septic. When you become septic, you have a choice to make, which is let's clear you out, which is what they wanted to do, because it's really hard mentally to stabilize someone in a hospital for 9 months. I was 6 weeks pregnant, and the only way to clear me out was to also clear the baby out. And for me, that was not an option. So having the background knowledge that I did, which sometimes they don't like, but I was help guiding my own care. There's something called TPN. So that's all the nutrition through an IV. I was not able to eat anything in my mouth, not even drink water, because I was septic. I had a hole in my intestine. So it would have just caused more sepsis. And any pregnant woman knows you might want to eat the whole grocery store. So this was very, very hard for me. My family would come and bring Vaseline, and I would get a little ice cube sometimes to put on my mouth. I would always sneak it in. But it takes a lot of humanness away from you. It makes you feel very much like an object just trying to survive. But then you go through the spiritual layers when the body's decomposing. I mean, it is what happens. And that's why people are very profound if they have near-death experiences, which I'll get to in a moment. But being hospitalized 9 months, your body will break down over time. So I stayed there. I ended up with a colostomy bag. I had multiple resections in my stomach. And I also, with my first son, had a C-section. And I had my appendix removed. So put it this way, I walk in a sauna, this lady said, "Were you bit by a shark?" you know, because my stomach has so many different scar tissue, and it might not look like the average stomach. So just so many things happen. And again, after 9 months, my spine got twisted, rotated. I had asymmetry in my spine. I got pressure ulcers by my sacral area and the side of my hips, which of course I'll send you the pictures. And one thing which was a blessing, everything's a blessing. We can't argue with the path, because going to school first, I learned, you know, and legally you're supposed to move a patient every 2 hours, but ideally every 20 minutes. 2 hours is the maximum. So I would look on the clock every 2 hours. I would try to take one hand and move the other hand, but they ended up giving me an epidural because I was pregnant. They didn't want me to move. So I couldn't move the bottom part. And that's why I got the pressure ulcers. And when you have wound care and you're not moving, lack of circulation, there's so many malpractices and early deaths for no reason in these places, because it's really, you know, and it's not a lack of knowledge, because some hospitals have embedded in the sound system a song that plays every 2 hours. And nobody knows but people like me. It's turn your patient, roll them over, move their bones. And guess what? They're all at the station and they're drinking coffee, talking about what they're going to eat for dinner, right in front of someone who's intubated, pregnant, and didn't eat for 9 months. Like, you can't make up this story. But again, so that was the detriment to the mind, because, you know, it's a mind-body connection. The body was deteriorating, but my mind started off very strong. But over time, it gets impacted. After being transferred to 3 different hospitals, I ended up at the Cleveland Clinic. And I would say watching a building get built was my BrainTap, because at Cleveland Clinic, I was not able to bring my child. They did not have a baby center or mother center. So we were separated, and I love my family so much, more than anything. And I wanted to get out for him. I should go back to when I was intubated and I had to pull out all my IVs, because I knew I was going to get out. Nobody knew except me because of my spirit. But being at the Cleveland Clinic, I saw, you know, they warded off a construction zone. There was nothing there. And then as I was there, I saw planks and planks and planks. It was a high rise. And for me, that was my son and my family growing outside this building. So every day I got myself up. I would walk down the hallway. I would take deep breaths. And I kind of had to take the care, even though I was in these places, still in my own hands. What could I do today? Can I breathe more? Can I get out of my bed? You know, and I even had nurses coming in my room to have a moment of peace from the hospital. I mean, my husband was scared because every time he visited, I had 20 Amazon boxes. But I put colors on the walls. I put aromatherapy. Essential oils are so important. Your olfactory system is your most primary system. So, like, you know, I would smell lavender. I would smell peppermint. I would take my mind on travels. Right there in the hospital, I switched my whole room just through my perspective and my mind. So this is the part where I started really gaining mind over matter power. I'm like, you know what? This is going to be better. Having people come to me, this was also a healing part. In a hospital, having nurses just come in and shut the door and say, I just want your energy. I just want 10 deep breaths. And I'm the one intubated and messed up, you know? And then I remember one day when I got up, my ribs were attached to my ASIS. So, I mean, people listening to this, if they're not looking at the pictures, you can't even imagine. But I would hold this IV pole and I would walk down the hallway and force myself 1 round today, maybe at lunch and at dinner. And this lady, this person saw me walk past her door. And I used to be a model. I used to do all these things. So looking at my physical self changed. If I was focused on the outside, that would have been it, you know? But I knew I was strong and there was more to me than how I looked. And when I walked past her room and she goes, all I heard was, I wish I could walk like her. And in my mind, I'm like, she's talking about me and I feel like I can't do anything. But there was something in me that went in her room and I said, well, have you tried? Get up. Today's the day. So I motivated her to get up. She held her IV pole. It was way too far ahead of her. I said, bring it close, hold it for stability, pause every couple steps. And I realized, me helping others is feeding me life and soul and purpose. And that was my purpose. So I took all of that. I was going to go to the dentist today to clean my teeth, but being intubated, I had to replace cap and implant every single tooth. This is the first time I actually don't have extensions in my hair, because not only did I get pressure ulcers, I got bald spots here and here and here, which are all full of hair right now. So, red light, dry needling, all that stuff brought it back. There is a way to bring things back if you want it bad enough. So that's like the really big cap of how everything happened. And of course, there's more and more and more we could talk about.
Yeah, they can tune into, you have an Instagram channel. You do share a lot of information.
Yeah. So the Instagram is Queen of Biohacking. It does say DM to follow, and that's because I don't want robots or weirdos. So send me a message, say, I saw your podcast. I would like to follow. I have a 17-year-old. He doesn't want anybody looking at me in a bikini. But I do also have the Exercise Center, which is where I treat patients. A lot of my patients, 98% of my patients, are a neuromuscular situation, whether we're doing re-education for the mind or body. I have a lot of patients with MS, CP, ALS, Parkinson's, post-stroke, post-amputation. I teach people how to walk again because of physics and knowing math, and I was going to be an engineer as well. So the components of, your prosthetics, you have to have someone who can understand these things, as well as going from a bikini model. I used to be a Hawaiian Tropic model, and I used to do Miller model. Like, I did all of this stuff. So when I deteriorated and came back, it's like you just have this balance of you can get it back. The outside's important, the inside's important. I forgot what I was saying about that, but anyways, we'll go on past that.
Yeah. Well, one thing that really impressed me was I've not heard of anyone reversing a colostomy bag before. Once you have that, most people give up, and that's the rest of their life. And you decided to biohack your way out of it, maybe without even knowing about biohacking, just doing your thing.
Well, I know, along with many people, that I like the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation, or that person that said, I want to walk like her. We're still friends to this day. That person has brain cancer. They're still in the hospital. And it's almost horrific of what I can see with certain people. And sometimes, I don't want to say it's their fault, but to do what I did almost it's like setting yourself on fire and flying. It's really hard to find motivation in such a dark hole. And I truly believe if it wasn't for my mother and the things she went through, and she used to have a lot of saying, which I can't say here, but you have to truly disconnect from all attachment, like Buddhism, and you just have to feel free. And how can you get better from here? If you're always arguing with, like, why me, nothing's going to ever happen. So getting better from here, whatever that means to me, is always a deep breath. Breath is life. So when I was intubated, I would say that was one of the worst times because it was timed, it was breathing for me. And that was the motivation where I pulled it out of my mouth because it was a shorter breath than I wanted. I wanted a slow breath in, a slow breath out. And, it's just, people have to really pull. And again, the breath, it's hard because there's so many things out here. And that's why yoga was a great prerequisite to all of this trauma, because you go through the layers, the branches of yoga, withdrawing your senses from the outside world. And I really think having this multidisciplinary facility that I've built in Tampa, Florida, the Exercise Center, which now has the Zen Powerhouse, because the mind and body are so important. And then one of my initials behind my name is I'm a fitness nutrition specialist. What you eat is important. Body work is important. Touch is important. Whenever I was sad or whenever I was sick, often I isolated myself, which is sometimes the worst things we can do. So having body work, massage, dry needling, I got a certification for everything I thought was important, so I could be that dimensional healer to my patients. And if I didn't have the service, I wanted to create the network that did, which is why we have the Biohackers Mastermind group that's been so awesome.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about what you did once you got out of the hospital, because that was just the start of it, right? A lot of people think to get out of the hospital, they're done.
Yeah.
I mean, I still remember a client telling me they don't have any issues because they're on medicine. I said, the 17 pills you're on means you have a problem. I said, nobody has a pill deficiency. You know, it's most pills were set for some short duration of time to get you through the trauma, but then you have to heal. So tell us a little bit about what you started doing, what pieces of equipment, what things you did that caused you to go from, you know, this person who was dependent upon other people to, you know, getting back on your own, getting rid of your colostomy bag. I mean, that in itself is a miracle.
Yeah, so some people have gotten rid of colostomy bags with this, but it takes a lot to do that. And even doing that sometimes, not sometimes, all the time, it's a lifelong journey because you always know I'm having IVs. By the end of this podcast, I could talk like this, you know, because there's parts of your intestine that are removed where you absorb water, where you push back water into your system. So for me, they said they took all the parts where I reabsorb water. So I'll have chronic dehydration. I'll have dumping, which means whatever I put in my mouth, I'm going to go to the bathroom maybe an hour or two later, really not absorb. So this is why it's very important to understand that even though we are all one, we're all unique. And if I do IV therapy, you know, multiple times a month, that might be good for me and for you. Your doctor might say, it puts you at risk for infection, this, that, and the other. We're different. But for me, if I weigh my pros and cons, it's very important for me. And I truly believe everybody should have supplementation, so we could start there. Ruining my gut, my whole life they told me it doesn't matter what you eat, you have the worst form of Crohn's disease from your mouth all the way to the bottom. And Boost, you know, the Boost drinks, the Ensure drinks, that's what they would always give me. You just need to drink this. It was almost like that's all I did. Nobody told me don't drink coffee before you drop your kid off at school. Sorry, teacher. You know, like nobody taught me how to do nutrition. And like I told you, I was going to medical school. I was going to all of these things, but nobody talks about nutrition. So nutrition is very important. The time of day I eat is very important. And also not being rigid is very important, because when we go to conferences or in life, like people notice when there's food shortages or things can happen, you have to have the ability to, you know, go off of your path a little bit and have the discipline to go back on. Because sometimes people create a pathway and then they go on vacation and they just say, oh, look, I stopped myself. You know, they like forget all of that. And then they go back to where they were. And then guess what? Next year, they're back to where they were with diabetes, heart issues, weight issues, knee problems. You can see, oh, someone's doing good, and then it all comes back. So it's important to be able to have discipline. IV therapy, supplementation, nootropics to stimulate my mind. I also believe in plant medicine for natural ways to take away pain, to stimulate appetite, because for me, I was in a lot of pain. The doctors put me on Dilaudid, morphine, Benadryl, Ambien. These are severe opioids where my balance will get messed up, where I can't help my patients. But guess what? They didn't care if I was on them in graduate school. But if I showed up with a positive marijuana test, or even if I had CBD, they were upset with that. And these are very healing ways, anti-inflammatories. So that was a big switch. Off all the medicines, plant medicines, nootropics. The first yoga also, grounding, I'm always barefoot. Sunlight's important. Heat, I love. Then I got into the biohacking world. The first biohack I ever bought was a NewFit machine. It's called a Newbie from NewFit. Because as you know, we've been working out recently with electrical stimulation. It really expedites the process. So I was able to bind myself. And again, having that knowledge, like a lot of my patients say, well, I don't know what you know. So I do believe my whole journey has been God-given, you know, and divine. But finding my stomach, putting electrical stimulation on it. I would actually stand on a vibration plate or hang myself upside down on my yoga hammocks and scream. And I would scream because I was angry, and I would scream because I was sad, and I would scream because I could feel it at my core. And we screamed this past weekend. So getting out of your comfort zone to do the things that you know you need to do is very rare. And that's when I realized I worked well with people in the hospital with Parkinson's, because I was like, heal, heal, heal. And they're like, what the hell's that lady doing? But all my patients were walking with their heels. You know what I mean? And you have to tap in a different network sometimes. So the newbie helped tap into my network and lock in my stomach muscles. And then I went around and played with the rest of my body. So the newbie. The next machine was your device. And your device was people always ask if you had one device on a private island or a private island, a desert island. Look, this is me manifesting the future.
Yes.
But in a desert island, what would it be? And it would be the BrainTap with Wi-Fi. But I ran into you at a Dave Asprey conference in 2021. And I remember I bumped into you, and I saw BrainTap. And I had this really good energy. I am very spiritual. So I went to your talk. I went to the exhibit hall, and a lot of things are $1 million anyways. I wasn't there. And I'm like, oh, this device is affordable. But once I put it on, I had the reaction a lot of my veterans and UFC fighters have. I mean, we could talk about anybody, but these people are in a state of stress. And sometimes when they take it, which I've sent you videos, and they take it off, I go, how was that? And they're like, and then sometimes they might cry. But when you really don't have a gauge of when you felt this calm or relaxed, it's quite intense to realize it's possible. With no medicines, no plant medicines. I'm in an environment where there's people. I didn't have to isolate myself. I didn't have to put anything in my body. And it was really amazing. So I didn't just buy one for me. I bought like 9 of them. And I bought for my patients and everybody I knew that needed one. And I don't like to talk to psychologists. I didn't tell anybody here, but after I got out of the hospital, my mom was unfortunately transcended to the moon, meaning that she passed away because the hospital overdosed her on blood thinner. And she survived stroke and lung cancer, and she had shoulder replacement. She was always such a strong woman, but you don't know what tomorrow holds, and that was her philosophy. And they literally, she was gone. So her being my best friend and me, I was really sad. And so I started exploring all the different meditations. I was in a high delta wavelengths, which is like walking around in deep sleep. And I'm sure if you're listening to Dr. Porter's podcast, I hope you know about the wavelengths. But now my main wavelength that's on fire during the day is gamma, which is beautiful. But either way, I listened to them, alert, sleep. Sleep was very important. And going back to sleep, I only slept 4 hours a night for the past 15 years when I met Dr. Porter. Now I'm at 6 hours. And I'll get into a couple other biohacks that I believe also helped me there. But really, if I would wake up and I would drug myself again and again to go back to sleep. And that's not even a proper sleep, as you know, which I learned about that. So, and then I used to stutter. And it's because my brain is really expansive, but I guess it happens to some of us. Like Einstein, I hear he stuttered. Or, you know, who knows? I hope that's true, but I think so. But I used to say wish dosher and blah, blah, blah. It's like going too fast for this speed. However, I've learned to slow down. I've learned to listen more. I talk a lot less, which would surprise you. And someone the other day go, "Oh, are you getting triggered?" And it was kind of funny because I said no, but I realized the trigger as it's about to poke me, and I choose not to be triggered. And triggering is very violent, so you have to reconnect with how you perceive that. Mm-hmm. And for me, it's just a pathway of like, oh, that hurt. It's okay to hurt. Like, you know, if you can see alcoholics and you grew up with a person that's an alcoholic, you're very fine-tuned to the frequency of like, oh, is that the last one where they're going to be angry or violent, or are they a goofy one that I can be safe around? Like, people can tell you, oh, that's crazy, but you don't know my childhood. And this is how my body's been. I have a longer antenna to receive different frequencies because of my experience. So for me, it's not a trigger. It's my long antenna that's aware of different frequencies. So you had a speaker series, a spotlight series on your app, and I thought, one day I'm going to talk on stage. I never thought how if I go to the bathroom 100 times a day and stutter, but really truly working with the BrainTap every single day has helped me. And it's just like the BrainTap. I sell BrainTaps all the time. I ask my patient, have you used your BrainTap? Because when they come, they want to use the BrainTap. I said, don't you have a BrainTap? Like we have a lot of stuff to do. Well, I left it here. I'm not using it. I'm like, you got to use your BrainTap. It only works if you use it. And I actually use it every single night, possibly almost every morning. And if my patients cancel or my dentist cancels my appointment, I'm just going to BrainTap right then and there because it can only better you. And so the BrainTap has been amazing. It made me a better mother, a better wife. I opened 6 businesses, and all of this is impacted by your brain. I used to think money was greed. People are evil with money. And everything is a perspective, an output, an input, a frequency. And I would say if we're going to talk about business and coaching, and everybody should come to your BrainTap event, March 15th, plug. But I switched the way I thought of money. I thought this is an energy exchange of abundance. My children can go to private school. I can eat organic food. I can have supplements all the time. And the better I do for my patients, instead of saying, oh, the greed, and then guess what happened? My business grew. I'm able to do better for my patients. All we do is eat organic in my house. And it feels good to be able to put that energy into my family and out there. So people don't realize they're building their own life. So the BrainTap by far is the most important. Heat, infrared sauna, having all the scar tissue that I have, I must go in heat, if not daily, at least every other day. When I'm at conferences, I try to find relaxed sauna or Therasana or something. I'm like, I got to get in, I got to defrost, because when you have scar tissue, or really anybody, it's like a rubber band just returning to its resting position. So when you lay down and you can align your spine, and for your mind, especially with heat, it's the best for your body. So if you're going into the sauna at the gym, sitting like a crab with your shoes on, looking at the phone, you're really not doing good for yourself, and you're actually doing bad. You're wearing clothes that have chemicals. You're opening your pores. You're bringing dirt on the thing, and it's really not good. I always tell people, when you're on a vibration plate, when you're in the sauna, I want you to position yourself how you want to look in 10 years, right? And I don't think it's looking down at your phone with your shoulders high, sitting in a ball, right? My mom told me everybody's going to look like we're on Wall-E, that movie. We're like just projecting our phones, So heat is very important. So he said newbie, BrainTap, heat. I love the anti-aging bed. So going to grounding, you can ground outside barefoot, but it's a silver bed cover. So you plug it into the wall, it grounds you. And I live in Tampa. This area has the highest content of lightning strikes into the ground. So every time the lightning hits the ground, it's donating all of these electrons. So if you think of like the plus and minus sign, you have all the minus signs down here. And in our body, we're storing these plus signs. So you could think of free radicals, radiation, and even these plus signs, eventually could turn into cancer or things like that. But when you touch a grounding sheet, which could be anyone's, it plugs into the wall. And if you have a meter, you just want to make sure it works. I've had people call me, I bought this one on Temu for $5. I bought this one on Amazon. Hey, if it works, good. If it's offloading gas, I'll break for you. But, to each their own. I don't care what you're getting, but if you touch it, instantly you neutralize. So everything goes through the bed into the wall, just like your products ground, like all of your electricity. So I think that plus everything else I did, I've improved my sleep so much. And I could go on and on, but those are my foundational.
Yeah, let's break them down a little bit, because I'm going to ask you to send me links to those so
Okay.
people can learn. You know, if they want to learn more about any of those things, just send us your links, and
Okay.
we'll make sure that they can get to them. But let's start with newbie first, because a lot of people, of course, our listeners know about BrainTap. You covered that really well. But the newbie device, you use it on a lot of different issues, and people don't understand how this. It's not just electricity. You have frequencies in that electricity, so it's not just like plugging into 110 volt or 220 volts.
No, and it's a perfect example because, you know, I could have a rock and you could have a rock, but they're completely different rocks, you know? So just people say, well, I have a TENS unit. And I say, okay, so if someone has a grandkid or a child, I go, do you know Hot Wheels at the store? You know, the little, right? So you have a Hot Wheel and I have a Porsche.
Right.
That I can drive. So, I mean, equipment is very different. And what is the similarity between a Hot Wheel and a Porsche? They have wheels, they're both cars, but one you can drive, one is a toy. A TENS unit, which most people know, is intercepting your pain output. So if you watch football and you think of someone throwing a touchdown, the football is pain. The field goal is your brain, right? And then you have the other team that grabs it and then they run it to the other side. Again, I don't know these terms, but that interception is the TENS unit, right? It's running to the other side. It's never going to make a goal though, because when you shut off that TENS unit, guess what? The team's going to tackle you, take the ball back, and then they're going to make the touchdown, because the TENS unit is just intercepting that pain output temporarily. It's also alternating current often. You can have different currents, and the newbie device is direct current stimulation, which mimics how your nerves conduct anyways. It's a direct stimulus. You have your, you know, the nerve conduction. So if you think of bioavailability of food, which people care about, you have to think of bioavailability of the nerve device that you're putting on, the electrical stimulation. So it's going through the loops that your nerves would go through. So for example, you put your hand on a stove, right? You move it before you even know it's hot. It's because when you touch it, there's these signals. One will go to your spine, which is to withdraw, because you have two brains. Withdraw. Oh, snap, that was hot. Right? Yeah. So if you step on a nail, you'll pick up your foot before you even know what happened, right? So this is the same way the newbie works. It's how I tell my patients without getting too technical. So it goes through those same loops. So you can work on the output of pain, because pain is an output. So when doctors say, do you have any pain? Absolutely not, but this might feel tight. This might feel stiff. This might be tingling. I don't want, and it's okay to identify with pain, but slowly you can reduce those things. And you can gear the frequency from 0 to 500. So you can go on settings that will create bigger muscles. So, you know, body contouring, strengthening, hypertrophic training. If people follow Mike Tyson, he used the newbie to fight the other YouTubers. Sorry, I don't know the guys' names. But, you know, you can use it for different things. And then there's also a setting for a master reset, which is by far my favorite setting for my patients who have MS, CP, as well as myself, or anybody that needs something like just to relax. So you put 2 pads on your neck, 2 pads on your feet, and it's like assimilating, you know, deep sleep. You get to relax, releases the vagus nerve, and it's just a beautiful thing. So you can also even analyze people's, which of course we can with the neural check. I mean, those are some good numbers. But also with the newbie machine, you can look at the tolerance of stimulation. So the higher someone can tolerate, the more relaxed they are, the more their nerves can open. The less someone can tolerate, the more shut down they are, the more impingement that they might have on their body. And how I explain to people, let's say you're 20 years old, you go out and you want to water your garden. Your hose is the nerves, the garden, the flowers, and everything else is your muscles, your movement, your walk, your gait, and everything. As we get older, we could have injury, trauma, or repetitive movements, whether you're a hairdresser or a mechanic, or an athlete, you're doing the same motions all the time. So your body will start to, like compress the nerves. And if anybody, looked into a hose and you shut it down, it stops, and then you open it and tease your sibling. No. But what I tell people is I'm going to reopen up that hose, because if you're out there and you still have your hoses are working, and we're blessed for that. People who have had a spinal cord injury, that's when the hose gets cut. And because we're still working, many people won't focus on it. They're just like, oh, this is taking longer. Oh, this is more painful. Or I feel gravity more. So as we get older, we're going against gravity. So we're like fighting this pull down, and things are taking longer. And it's because of these impingements and what happens over time. So what the newbie does, I would say, is unkink the hoses and allow the muscles to fire at the rate that they should, as well as sensory. So I see a lot of athletes, also Olympians, UFC fighters, NFL, all of that, and we optimize the output of their nervous system. So they're having these fast twitch fibers move, these explosive movements. They're more powerful. So it's not just for people who have a condition. It's really to optimize anybody. And this is me just talking about a couple things. But again, all of the certifications that I do to better my license, I've taken almost every course offered by this company. One, because they've created very amazing, but they have newbie for MS, for pregnancy, for hypertrophic training, for pelvic floor, and every single thing's important. I want to know, how can I use the machines that I buy? And there's gloves, there's knee sleeves. They're made of silver. You can, wet them and create this conduction. There's a great team of people that explore how else can we use these devices. So we're experimenting, we're researching. So maybe you can wet a wet washcloth, put it on your face, put some clamps. I'm not telling anybody else to do this, but we experiment with beauty procedures, skin tightening procedures. I mean, really, it's limitless, the things you can do when you understand science, vibration, and energy. And I would say that's what makes our clinic different than a lot of biohacking centers, because we are run by clinicians that do no harm, and they'll do everything to find the answer or make sure they're mastering your treatment.
Right. I know that we were just together at a biohacking conference. We saw a lot of new things, a lot of old things, but there were some new things there. Where do you see biohacking going, since you're sitting there on your throne telling us all what to do? So tell us a little bit about what you see the future of biohacking.
Well, I see it becoming more affordable and more portable. We got to put that on a shirt, make a campaign. That's my mom's spirit coming through. Everything was a song. That's a song. That's a rhyme. But I just had a call on the way to my house. Someone was telling me about a biomarker device that it only takes 15 seconds. And I said, oh, how much is it? $25,000? Oh, it's only $300. And I'm like, wow. And, we saw a device that I'm not going to talk about yet because I want to do more research. But the other day, I was looking at a device that almost assimilates a hydrofacial, which women pay $300 or more just for an hour session. And this device, that's all it costs. And not only is it pushing, hydration through the skin, but it was also ozone as well as hydrogen. So, and they were only going to put it at $300. And I think it's amazing. I think to make this more affordable is going to be really bringing it into mainstream populations, because for me, again, growing up with not a lot of money, when someone says, this costs $10,000 or even $5,000, it's going to be a shutdown. It's immediate shutdown. If I can't afford it, it's not for me. I'm going to go for the surgery. I'm going to go for the opioids or the pain. So I think that anybody who has a clinic, it's really important to have things of different levels for people. Also to do charity work. We have a pay anything you can Friday, because services aren't cheap. I put my whole energy and everything into it. But if someone says, I can't afford a $275 appointment, I said, well, come in on Friday. We have a pay anything you can Friday. And the minimum donation is $20. So we share that with the students that work at our center. So I even give the students half. The facility gets $10 or whatever is half of the donation. And you want to make everything approachable, affordable. And that doesn't mean to reduce your value. It means creating a program where it's also accessible, maybe a different way. So, and then I wanted to say with the portability, as you know, the electrical device that I recommended for you was not the newbie, because we have another device that came out, which is the Vision bodysuit. And I mean, I did not make that decision lightly. I probably tried 10 to 12 suits, and a lot of them have huge cords that attach you to the wall. Instantly no, because I already knew I'd like my newbie more. If someone's going to be attached to a machine, I might as well just use the newbie because I already know it's gold standard. But what I know is that when you have a neurological condition, or really anybody, imagine you're walking around all these wires. Your brain is going to feel like, oh, I don't want to reach out as far to trip. So you have a governing system. So that portability, that Bluetooth, we got to test, what's going on there. But I think that this is the way of the future. Okay, yeah. Go on.
That's great. I was just going to ask, what's going on with the Queen, and where is she going to be herself? What is your plans? What's going on for the future?
Wow. So I feel things are like exponentially growing in all directions. That's why my car says nucleus on it. I have to remember, but I radiate like the sun in all directions. So the Exercise Center has been the hub spot of healing, physical therapy, learning to walk and talk again. I mean, that's just my foundation, and especially where I put a lot of my certifications into. Then we opened the Zen Powerhouse, so yoga. Last year I started Biohack Your Pets. One of my patients brought in their pet. They wanted me to help them, and when you can heal people and provide this environment, often it can apply to your pet, your cats, your dogs, your horses. So if you guys follow Biohack Your Pet, it's a very new page, so I'd love to follow. And if you have a product, send it to me. I'm not just going to put it on there. There's a process. So I always want to validate everything that I use, and that's something that people can rely on, because I'm also, I write and I'm a contributor for Lifespanning magazine in the Queen's Corner. So you guys got to get a subscription to Lifespanning, and you can read a lot of the things that I'm putting out there. I just signed up with, it's the Integrative, how do I say the university?
Integrative Wellbeing Institute.
Yes, Integrative Wellbeing Institute. So I'm going to be writing courses for you guys. I've been working with MeScreen to help validate companies and how it affects the mitochondria. A meditation practitioner for BrainTap. I love writing meditations and working with you and recording the ones that you write. That's been one of my favorite things to do. And then hosting retreats and speaking. So, and writing books and research. So I'm doing research on ayahuasca plant medicines. I want to go to a place in Colombia called Leiva and do a big study. And I was talking with Francisco Sidral, Dr. Francisco Sidral this morning about going with me. The Queens of Biohacking book. I'm waiting for the beautiful Cynthia Porter. And all these women from around the world are coming together writing a chapter. And that's important for me, bringing this network together, because again, my mom was killed by the hospital. So to do no harm is very important. And I believe a way of doing no harm is creating a network of people, of like-minded individuals who care. So now we have a WhatsApp group where it's like, where's an oncologist? Where's this? Where's that? And it's not saying, I mean, we still believe in mainstream medicine. And I trust the referrals that are coming from my biohacking holistic practitioners. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a lot.
Yeah, you got a lot going on for sure. Yeah. And so I know that you're already on the app, but you and I are doing some sessions together. So stay tuned, BrainTap Nation. You'll be hearing those soon. They're not the usual fare for me, but I love it because that's what it's kind of gets me to do more of what's my hobby than other things. So that's great. So we're just rounding out the podcast. We're coming up on the hour. So anything I forgot to ask you that you think people need to know about you, and how can they follow you, like you, whatever they need to do? You already said it once, but just reinforce it.
So if you go to theexercisecenter.com, that's my website. And I would say it's really easy if you have Instagram, going to the Exercise Center, because on the top is all the links to everything else. There's also Queen of Biohacking, Biohack Your Pet, and I'll send you all these links. So, and there's a YouTube channel, which is getting really popular. I just taught a lot of people how to help themselves poop when they're on the toilet. And you'd be surprised, it's my most watched video, and I'm really happy for that. So just look up the Queen of Biohacking and you'll find me.
There you go. Yeah, we've seen it. You just do hashtag Queen of Biohacking and all your stuff comes up on the internet. So That's cool. So I want to thank you, Lauren, for taking time out of your busy schedule and what you do there. I know you're helping people down there in Florida. We had to rearrange this a little bit, but it worked out for us and for the listeners. So thanks for being here.
Thank you so much. I can't wait to see you in a couple of weeks for your event, and I look forward to it.
Yeah, super. So thank you, BrainTap Nation, for watching this. If you know anyone out there that thinks that they have something uncurable or something that they've been told by the medical community that can't happen, this could be an inspiring message that they listen to and gets them to start taking action. And if you're around Lutz, Florida, and you want to go to the Exercise Center, then we're going to have the links below. You can go visit Dr. Lauren and her team. You don't have to have a problem to go there. I went there. I did that reset, and it was awesome.
And I also do telehealth, so I see people from all over the world.
Yeah, so if you want to tune into her, follow her, go to her website, which we're going to have posted below, and let's follow and like, and let's get the Queen of Biohacking out there, since she's making herself available and doing things. I know you can also, if you see any biohacking conference in your area, you're probably going to see the Queen of Biohacking there. She's there all the time.
Yeah, so Biohackers World is coming up next, and CryoCon and all this good stuff. So if you guys want to be in the WhatsApp group, I'll send you the link. It's open for everybody.
Yeah, there you go. So please like and share this video, get it out to the world. And I want to say to you right now, we're on a mission to better 1 billion brains. If you're listening this long, then it's your brain we're talking to. So please tell 2 to 3 other people about it so we can continue to upgrade our thinking, upgrade our lives, and live the life that we were destined to live. So until next time, keep tapping that brain, keep getting smarter, brighter, and having the abundant life that I know you all can have. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on our mission to better 1 billion brains. Follow at Dr. Patrick Porter on social media for updates, and remember to practice brain fitness every day.